All right, so with my front, basically my inside and my outside, my front and back, inside, outside of my card setup, here's what I did to get the print output on this. First off, this card is such a size at 6 by 18 prior to folding. I could fit about 2 of these up on a 13 by 19 sheet fairly comfortably. So what I did first is I went into each file and I actually saved it out as a PDF file. In fact, a PDF X4. So I'll kind of just go through that quick. I chose Adobe PDF to save out. I'll choose card outside. I'm going to call this demo for right now to go to my save. And what I did is I chose PDF X4, the 2010, the latest standard that's on your machine or on a lab machine. And then I made sure that I also went ahead and outputted some trim marks, and I included my document bleed settings to save this to PDF. So I'll show you what I ended up with, because I essentially used that with everything in the project. So if I go into mine, I have my card outside export. Basically, I set that up to be output. I could have probably done a little cleaner job of my seam there, but I had that outside, and it's nice because this has trim marks on it as well. I then had the card inside. This has those trim marks applied. And what I actually did was I used InDesign to set this up for duplex. So let me open it up quick and show you what I mean. So what I have here is I have the document set up with 2 pages, basically a front. This page indicates the outside of the card. And then I had a second page for the inside. And the key is you want the print position to be exactly the same. So when you print these duplex, front to back is going to line up really precisely, or as precisely as you can get it, and then you can adjust that on the machine further. So I'll kind of just walk through how I did that quick. I could possibly have done this in Illustrator or another software, but I found InDesign to work pretty well. So I'll just make a new document. And I did this with the idea that I would pick 13 by 19 paper that was at about 80 or 100 pounds, because it's something we had in the lab. And I'm going to uncheck facing pages because this is just going to be basically single pages. Or actually, for what we're doing, it really won't matter too much, but I'm going to uncheck it. Margin, if I want to leave that 1/2 inch margin in there, I can. But basically, I don't need bleeds or anything because all I'm going to do is place PDFs. So with this set up, I just ran a file place. And maybe I'll start with the outside. So I grab my outside PDF. So let's see, card outside PDF. I'll open that up. And I just placed it in. And I kind of roughly aligned it here. Now, I had to push the margins a little bit. You'll find that you can actually print outside of a 1/2 inch margin. You can make it work. So I tried to take enough so I could just fit this in here while fitting a second copy, and enough that I could get the trim marks generally to be on the page so I could see it. So what I did was I placed another copy now. So I'll run a file place, or I could just make a copy off of it like this to get 2 up. And I made sure that I had these aligned perfectly so that I could then go trim them out. So what I'm going to do is just kind of move this over until they're encroaching a little bit. There, my trim marks kind of going into the other one, but that's okay. But they should be aligned pretty closely. I then went through and aligned them on the page as close as I could get them, and I'm sort of pushing the printable edge. With the printers that we have in our lab, we can get that close to the edge, so you may find you need to bring them in a little bit tighter, as long as it's in the trim area. I'm not putting any color bars or anything on this, so for this purpose, I think it's going to be pretty much okay. So basically, I had this set up now with 2 copies. I've got 2 copies up for the front, but I need the back as well. So here's what I'm going to do is go to my Pages tab that's set up in InDesign, And I'm just basically going to duplicate the page. So actually, let me duplicate this spread. So now I have two spreads. I have page 1 and I have page 2. But what I'm going to do is go in to ensure that they're exactly in the same position front to back. I'm just going to select it and replace the link. So here's this instance, this version of this link. If I go click to relink, I can just go choose the inside then. So card inside PDF, I'll say open. Okay, there's my inside layer. Nice. Let's grab this other one. Do the same thing. Where's that? Let's relink that. There's my card inside PDF again. I'll open it. Okay. Now I basically have two that are ready to go. So I have my inside and I have my outside set to print. And essentially, this is what I then went and hit File Print from and sent it through as a duplex print head to foot so that it would take that back side and essentially print it all upside down. Now I could have maybe just manually set it up to do that, but I get really spatially goofed up if I do that. I just like to do it on the printer. So I kind of set this up to be, instead of being upside down in the document, I set it up to be right side up in the document and did all the duplex flipping on the printer. Another thing that would be useful to see is what I did for reference too. So what I would do is I'd save a version of this right away too. And I'll make a new folder for this. I'll call this my card die cut. And inside of it, I'm going to have the print file. So this is my standard print file. And then what I'll do is I'll save a second one. So I'm going to run a file save as, and I'll call this print file cut reference. And for this one, I created a second version. So I made that version where I actually left that black die line in place. So if you go in here and take a look, I exported a PDF that had the trim marks and everything, but I also left that black layer, that die line layer that I turned black on. And I did that just so I could have a cutting reference on the cutter. And I use this one of my videos, so it's kind of useful to know that. So what I did is I go in, and in my cut reference document, I just changed that PDF out. So I'll just relink it and change it out to my cut guide for the outside. Awesome. I do that for the second instance. Change that one out as well. There's my cut guide for the outside. And I essentially went and printed this as well, only on this one I have a visual reference of where the die cut's supposed to go. Because when I made my original Illustrator file and I basically saved a second instance for the card inside versus the outside, and I kept that reference layer in there, that should be in dead on exactly the right position. So when this card folds up, the die cut of the outside should align up perfectly to the inside. So those are the two versions that I use for print. Next video, I'll go into preparing the die line file.